Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today let's make a side fanfold reverse dyed hoodie. I'm using a women's buffalo hoodie which I purchased from Costco, and this one is like a hunter green type color. I haven't turned inside out, so you're looking at the inside of the hoodie right now, which is a little bit lighter than the outside. This hoodie is 70% viscose, 16% cotton, 11% polyester, and 3% elastane. The viscose and the cotton will dye really nicely. Of course, the polyester and the elastane won't. However, the majority of the polyester is in the inside of the hoodie. It's the fuzzy part. And then the elastane is in the banding, which goes down around the waist and around the arms of the hoodie. I began by using a piece of chalk and a piece of kite string or an old piece of sinew to draw an arc or part of a circle on the side of the hoodie. This is the line that I'm going to use to fan fold. The hoodie is slightly damp with just plain water, but because the fabric is so soft, it makes it a little bit more challenging to fan fold because the fabric doesn't really want to hold the folds as easily as it does with a piece of cotton. Once I get this line fan folded, I'm going to tie it with some sinew. The sinew that I use, I purchased from Amazon, and I have a link down below in the description for this video, as well as links to quite a few of the other products that I use when I tie-dye. Sinew is wax coated, and so whenever I tie this line with sinew, it is not going to allow any liquid underneath that area. So when I do the reverse dye process, add dye in, do any of the things that I'm going to do to this hoodie, the area underneath that sinew line is going to remain the hunter green color. I'm going to fan fold the rest of the hoodie, and I'm going to put sinew lines on both sides of this original line. Remember, because I am going to put it through a reverse dye process, anywhere that I don't put a sinew line, the color's pretty much going to be removed from that area. So I want to have these definition lines in the sweatshirt to just kind of give it some interest. I think, you can add in color. So I could, make a sweatshirt and add in hunter green lines, but there's just a difference when you do a reverse dye. The color is just, it's just different. It seems it's more saturated, just more solid. And it kind of just gives an interesting look to the hoodie or the sweatshirt or the t-shirt, whatever you're doing a reverse dye on, just to have some other colored line other than just a white line. I don't know. I personally love reverse dyes. I think they're always very interesting. And whenever I do a reverse dye, rarely does the shirt go totally white. Most of the time, it's some variation of, say, a taupey color. I haven't ever done a reverse dye on one of the green buffalo hoodies before, so I'm curious to see what color this one ends up. In my guess, it's probably going to be some form of taupe. And I actually really like the color that most reverse dyes end up. Now, when I'm talking about reverse dyes in this case, I'm talking about using Out White Brite. The shirts and stuff don't come out the taupey color necessarily if you use bleach. But when you use Out White Brite, most of the time they end up some form of taupe. And I actually like that color so much that I really don't mind if this shirt or hoodie or whatever doesn't get fully saturated. I think it looks kind of interesting to leave some of that color showing in the reverse dyed item. It kind of is a cool accent, I think. Okay, so I'm going to keep tying some definition lines in my hoodie, and I'm making sure that I pull the sinew as tightly as I can. I'm going to leave this hoodie tied with sinew through the whole entire process, and I'm only going to untie it at the very end. So I want to make sure I tie this sinew really tight where it can withstand all of the process it's getting ready to go through. So when I get down to where the sleeve of the hoodie is hanging below the rest of the hoodie, I'm going to go ahead and put some fan folds in that area. Then I'm going to fold it up into the rest of the hoodie so that I tie it all together. It's not just kind of hanging down there by itself. Okay, so for the color removal process, I'm using a product called Out White Brite Laundry Whitener. And I get mine at my local Walmart. It's normally on the laundry aisle, kind of over where the bleach and the bleach alternatives are. It's not a bleach product. It's really intended, if you've got dingy whites, to use some of this and it'll bring back the whiteness. I mean, it'll take out some of the dinge or the grayness out of your whites. If you can't find any in your local store, I have a link down below where you can purchase some from Amazon. I'm starting by liberally sprinkling the Out White Brite over the top of all the hoodies and the things that I'm going to reverse dye. I have quite a few down inside of this plastic container because if I'm going to boil the water and go through this process, I like to do quite a few things at the same time. I'm also doing this process outside because Out White Brite does have a smell and I don't want that smell inside. And I'm wearing my respirator throughout the whole entire process as well because I don't want to inhale any of the fumes or the powder. Now I'm going to pour a pot of boiling hot water over the top of the Out White Brite. And if you'll notice, whenever I do pour the boiling hot water on top, it immediately starts to remove the color. I haven't sped this part of the video up, and I know it may be a little tough to tell on a couple of the hoodies because the fuzzy part is what you're seeing. Just as a learning lesson that I learned, because the fuzzy part is where the polyester is, the color's not going to be removed from that area of the hoodie. So it's kind of hard to tell just from looking at the outside how well the Out White Brite is working. I have a couple other 100% cotton items down in the container though, so you can see how quickly the Out White Brite removed the color from those. After pouring the first container of hot water over the top, it didn't totally cover my items, so I poured a second container of boiling hot water over the top. They don't have to be totally covered, but I like them to be almost fully submerged. If you have areas of them sticking out, kind of like I do, you can see where the color's not getting removed from those areas. I use a pair of metal tongs, which I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store, and use those to turn the hoodies upside down, kind of move them around inside of the container to make sure every area gets fully covered and submerged and the color gets removed from those spots. I'm also going to add a little bit more of the Out White Brite. Since it works pretty fast, you don't have to leave them a long time. These are pretty thick, so I want to make sure the Out White Brite gets all the way through the folds or the ties. So I'm going to leave these probably about 20 minutes. You don't have to. I mean, if you're doing a t-shirt and you can see that the bulk of the t-shirt, the color's been removed, you can rinse it out whenever you want to. I just have to kind of go on good faith with the red one and the green one that what I'm wanting removed gets removed because I can't really tell what the color's going to be. That's also one of the fun parts about reverse dyeing is because I leave mine tied for the whole entire thing, I truly don't know how it's going to look until I unwrap it right at the very end. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've sped the video up, but like I said, I left them for about 20 minutes and then I took this container to my utility sink, dumped out the Out White Brite solution, and I rinsed the hoodies in cold water. Then I put the hoodies along with a little bit of Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent into my washing machine and I washed them. I think I used a warm water cycle, but it really doesn't matter. You can use hot, warm, cold. You just want to get out part of the smell and any of the residue from the Out White Brite. Remember, I left the hoodies tied the whole entire time. And then after I took them out of the washing machine, while they were still damp with just plain water, I went ahead and put them into my soda ash solution and I soaked them for 20 to 30 minutes and then wrung them out of my Panda spin dryer and put them aside to dry completely. When I soak anything that's been reverse dyed in a soda ash solution, I usually use a separate container of soda ash. Even though these things have gone through the washing machine, they're still going to bleed a little bit of color. I don't want to contaminate my main soda ash solution container, so I usually have a separate container of soda ash solution that I use for reverse dyed or previously dyed items. I thought I would try some like blues and purples and grays with this hoodie. I thought all three of those colors would look really good with green lines. You know, it's kind of hard sometimes to pair green and purple together because when you do that, the two dye colors mix and will make brown. However, if you're doing a reverse dye like this, you don't have that problem because the purple can't mix with the green lines and it's still going to kind of give the cool effect of purple and green together, but without the mixing and the brown. I'm going to incline ice dye the hoodie too, so I've placed it on one of my long racks, which is over the top of one of the long containers that I use to dye with. These are under the bed plastic containers, which I normally purchase mine from Walmart. Here again, I have links down below for where you can get some. The hoodie itself is a pretty thick fold, so in the middle part of the hoodie, I can't use my silicone cake molds because they're not quite tall enough. But I'm going to use them on either end of the fold where it's a little bit thinner. I'm going to wrap the silicone cake molds around my hoodie and then hold them up close to the hoodie by attaching some wooden clothespins to the metal rack. Then in the middle part, I'm going to use some clear plastic, which is actually like a clear plastic cutting board, which I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store and then cut into strips. And these strips are nice because you can cut them however wide you want to. I'm holding those up close to the fold too using some wooden clothespins. I'm going to place a different dye color in each one of the sections, and I have more sections than I do have dye colors, so I'm going to repeat some of them toward the end. I'm starting by using Wedgwood Blue from Dharma, followed by Iron Gray from Dye Spin, Vintage Purple from Dye Spin, Indigo Blue from Dharma, Velvet Orchid from Dye Spin, Neutral Gray from Pro Chemical, and Dusty Purple from Pro Chemical. Okay, so I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top just to make sure I have plenty in the hoodie after all the ice melts, and then add on a layer of ice. After the first layer of ice melted, I came back and added 2 more layers of ice to this hoodie. The layers of ice that I'm adding are not really thick. You know, the fold is pretty tall, and so I don't have a lot of space to add ice, and I want to make sure I have plenty of liquid to force that dye all the way through the hoodie. After the ice is on the hoodie, I'm going to place one end of this rack down inside of the bottom of the container, which is going to slightly incline the hoodie. Probably, I don't know, maybe at about a 40-degree incline, 35-degree. It's not a huge incline. I waited about 48 hours after all the ice melted before I started rinsing the hoodie. So this is what it looks like right before I started rinsing, and you can see the dye's gone through pretty well to the back side. It's kind of difficult to tell because remember, it's the fuzzy stuff that we're looking at. So even with dye, because that part doesn't really dye, it's hard to tell what kind of saturation you have until you rinse it out. I rinsed like normal by starting with cold water to rinse out the soda ash and to rinse off any of the extra little chunks of dye that I had left sitting on top. I went ahead and warmed the water up to hot and rinsed in hot for a little while. Then went ahead and untied the hoodie, and instead of just continuing to rinse, because this hoodie is so thick, it's going to take it a while to go ahead and get most of the excess dye rinsed out. So to avoid just a really long rinse process, I run some really hot water in my utility sink, add a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent to the water, and just allow the hoodie to soak. I think I ended up soaking this one for about 24 hours. I changed the water out several times during that time frame, but I kept soaking it until the water was getting almost clear. Then I put the hoodie along with some Dharma's professional textile detergent into my washing machine and washed it using a hot water cycle. Okay, so at this point the hoodie's been washed and dried, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? So I think this one turned out looking really cool. I thought at first that I didn't get really good color saturation until I remembered that I used some grays. And the areas that look like they don't have any color are actually gray. The hoodie ended up being kind of a taupe color after it was reverse dyed. And the one really big line right in the middle of the hoodie was neutral gray from Pro Chemical and Dye. Initially, I was a little bit disappointed in the gray on the hoodie, but the more I've looked at it, the more I actually like it. I think it kind of breaks up some of the brighter colors. I don't think it looks bad. I do love the green lines though. I think the green lines are just so unexpected and cool, especially when they're paired with something like purple, because like I said, it's pretty hard to get green and purple and have both of them as dark and vibrant without kind of forming brown where they would touch each other. The line that looks almost red is really dusty purple, and that's the first time I've had it turn that color. Dusty purple is a really cool color because it splits out green, but I don't remember it splitting this red before. I think it looks really cool though. That is definitely something I didn't expect. So overall, I really like this hoodie. I think it turned out looking really pretty. But what do you guys think? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. I'd also appreciate it if you'd like the video, and if you haven't already, if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll get a notification too every time I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.